Hello, I am Martin.Fencka and welcome to the second part of Let's Play Thea, The Awakening Return of the Giants. In the previous part, we didn't play much, I just introduced the game, we started the new game, and I prepared our village and our first expedition for this part, when we finally can start playing. But before we do that, there are still a few things I want to talk about. I forgot in the previous part, so let's go through that briefly. We mentioned research, so what we can research, and I actually didn't spend one point that we have available right from the start. I've been thinking about what do I want to start with, and I decided that I'd like to go in this direction and get to ancient wood as fast as possible. So I'm gonna start with elven wood, which is required for the ancient wood. Elven wood is really good because we can use it for buildings, and buildings made from elven woods can attract elves. In Thea, they are not only humans; there are more races. They are significantly harder to get or to make them join your village, but it's possible. We have elves, goblins, orcs, I don't know, there are demons, beasts, and I probably forget some. And elves are one of the better races to have in your group, so I'll try to attract them. And as I said, for that we need elven wood, so we're gonna invest our first research point into that. So let's do it. Um, by doing that, we will get 5 elven wood as like a gift for researching the resource, and also we'll see where we can find, or where the elven wood, at least one resource, is located on the map. And we are quite lucky with that because it's very close to our village. So once we get at least some basic resources to make sure that we won't get into trouble in our village, I'll send some people to gather the elven wood. We don't need it immediately, but we're gonna need it soon, and it's good that it's really close, and we can get it without problems. Um, there is one thing I should mention about resources. When we don't have a resource researched, it doesn't mean that we can't get it. It only means that we can't gather it, but we can get it, for example, as a loot after a fight. So some resources that are quite important. For example, spider silk is a resource that is quite important. But we don't have to research it because it's quite a common reward from fights against spiders. So some resources, even though they are not researched, you can get them, and sometimes you'll even rely on just fighting as a way of getting these resources. Though for some resources, just farming them with our villages is the best way, and like ancient wood, it's almost impossible to get from fights. So that's why we are going this way. What I want to do with ancient wood, I'd like to then focus on spears and get to pikes. That will take some time, but piercing weapons are really good. You'll see once you get to the fight why. And I'd like spears to be our main weapons. So this is research, and what do we have to do next? Hmm, I think now we can probably start exploring, or maybe one thing. In Thea, except that we have normal turns, the game is divided into days, like in day cycles. So we have morning, noon, afternoon, evening, midnight, and dawn. Each of these has 3 turns, and basically the closer we are to midnight, the more aggressive all the monsters will be. So what we are trying to do, at least from the start, is always explore it during the day, and when we get close to midnight, we are trying to get close to the village to protect it. Because if you remember from the previous part, the people that we have in the village have like no gear, so if they get attacked, they'll have really hard time defending themselves. So our expedition has to help them. Uh, and I hope I didn't forget anything, and we can get into the world and finally get into some combat. For now, our goal, or our goal. The goal of our expedition is just check what we have around, which resources we have around. So far, we don't have that much. These are seaweeds. That's well, like a source of food, but they are quite hard to get. Some or quite hard to gather. Some wood. Here we have coal. Again, it's really hard to gather, so we're probably gonna ignore that. And we just found the elven wood. That's really not enough. We could use some resources that allow us to make some gathering tools. So that's one thing we want to find. And other than that, it would be also nice to find like some spider dens that would give us spider silk, and yeah, maybe some ruins to explore. It would be nice to get some better weapons. Well, at this point, we need like anything. So let's start moving. And how does it look like, by the way, in the expedition with gathering skill? We could use the expedition together. We have two gatherers. What I need to know is how high is their gathering skill. 5 and 4, which means we can get, and plus we have the hunter who can gather as well with the gathering skill 6 actually. Because we can also use the expedition to gather resources that are not available in the village. And I'm probably gonna do that on the first turn. Here we can see some stats of our expedition, how many people we have, how long our food is gonna last, how long our wood is gonna last, and how many moves we have available. There are different types of terrain, and each terrain requires different amount of movement. When we want to go, for example, through a forest, we need 2 movement points. To get through flatlands, we need 1. Then there can be like tundra that requires even more than 2, like 3. Or we can have, for example, like tundra hills that require like 4 movement points. So we also have to choose like our path carefully, so we get as far as possible without burning too many points. Uh, so let's use 1 point to get here. You can see that now we can go only on this tile because the other tiles, these are swamps, require more movement. But what we can do is set up a camp, and because we have a source of wood right next to us, we can gather that. We can't gather this wood because it's like considered part of the village and can be gathered only from the village. So we can work only with this. But still, because our gathering skill is high enough, we can get 6 wood during this turn. So that's one thing, and now we can end the turn. Is there anything else we want to do? Probably not. I don't want to forget anything. We don't have the option to reload, so don't want to fuck up anything. What did we find? We found herbs and more wood. Yeah, herbs are quite hard to farm. Okay, so let's end the turn. And this icon means that not all of our villagers are working, but it's only some people in the expedition were not gathering because we didn't need them. Uh, if you remember, when we are setting the difficulty in the previous part, there was one option, I think it's called realism, and I said that I'm gonna talk a bit more about it when we get to the game, and now it's probably the time to talk about it. Later, when we get items that improve our gathering skill, it will be possible to actually use 5 people and get like double the required the points that we need to get a stack of the given resource. But because we set the, I don't know how it's called, the realism choice that we have taken, but the result of what we have decided to take is that no matter how many points we get, we can only get 1 stack per turn. That's what I want to say. So even if we are able to get 140 points, we would still get only 6 wood per turn. So that's why I only use 2 people to make sure that we have what we need, and I don't bother with those 3 remaining windows here. We just don't need that. It's possible to change the setting when you are starting a game, so you can get more stacks per turn. Just make the game a bit easier. But well, this is what we are going with. So just an explanation. Okay, now we just keep moving. Check what's further to the south. Let's go this way. I can see mushrooms and wood. Hmm. Here we can get meat. Okay, let's go on this tile. And again, start the camp. You can see that here we have quite a few resources around us. And because for now we have enough food, we could maybe try to get something else. But problem is, we can't get herbs. We won't be able to get 180 together to get herbs in one turn, and I don't want to stay here 2 turns. So what we could do is maybe get some more meat. And now we don't have enough points for wood, so this turn we just get the meat. 13 is not bad. And just end the turn. That's really not too many like interesting things down here. There's some resources, but I'm more interested in like ruins and stuff like that. Okay, but there is something here that looks like how's it called? Hive. Okay, and here we have the name of the interesting object or something that's out of the ordinary, and above that we have this skull. Like the amount of skulls above the name means how difficult this challenge is. One skull is the easiest what it can be, and it goes to 5 skulls, and I think then there is some kind of sign that means that it's even more difficult. I didn't play too much in the late game, but one fight that I fought had like a yellow bigger skull, such a weird sign, and it probably meant that it's even harder than like 5 skull fight. So yeah, it helps us to guess how difficult this encounter can be, but sometimes uh, it doesn't really correspond that well to the difficulty. Sometimes uh, it's like a 2 skull fight is tougher than like 3 skull fight. It depends really on the composition of the group. For example, fighting 3 skull, let's say goblins, is often easier than fighting 2 skull undead. It also depends on what kind of weapons we have and stuff like that. So I think for now it's enough to know that the amount of skulls means the difficulty. And this is our first fight because we definitely want to get something from this, and we also want to get rid of the hive itself, because from hives and dens and ruins and stuff like that, there will be packs of monsters spawning that can later be quite annoying. So let's go. Now, when we approach the hive, we have 2 options. Because we have a hunter, we can try to hunt them, or we can just attack them with normal fight. Um, both of these options will be resolved in the same way. We're gonna use the card minigame, but when we go hunting, the cards that we'll be using or their stats will be based on different skills than when we just go into normal fight. Um, when we fight this first option, the normal combat, we'll be using stats like how's it called? Damage, armor, um, and we'll be fighting against actual, in this case, bees. When we hunt them, we are basically like fighting against their ability, or how to say this. Um, we won't face the enemy itself, we'll just try to defeat them uh, with our hunting skills versus their ability to avoid hunting. So I'll show both these options. We will start with hunting because I don't want to fight bees, they are quite dangerous. And when we get to something when it's easier to just fight them, we'll show the other option. So let's go with the hunting challenge. You can start this, and this is our opponent. As I said, will not fight the actual enemy. We won't be fighting against bees, but we will be fighting against something that represents like their ability to avoid us catching them. Let's say it this way. So here we begin, and welcome to card minigame. Yeah, we can skip this, and I'm gonna explain this myself. So this is our side of the table. This is the enemy side of the table. We have 6 characters, and each of our characters is represented by 1 card. Because this is just an easy hunting challenge, their side is represented by only 2 hunting cards. Now each side is divided into 2 sides, like 2 hands. This is let's call it like active hand, and this is like a support hand. The combat has like 2 main phases. The first phase is just playing our cards. We can here we can see how many cards we can play per turn. We play the amount of cards, or we can just end the turn if you don't want to play more. Then it's opponent's turn. He also plays his cards. Then the initiative gets back to us, and again we play our cards. And when all cards were played, or we don't want to play any more cards, this first phase ends. These cards will create like a line in the middle of the table, and when no side wants to play any more cards, we get to the second like major phase, which is combat, and then the characters will start attacking. It always starts from this side. Here will be the characters that are played first, and from this side the line will be created, and those characters go one by one, they do their damage. And when we go through the whole line, all cards do their stuff. Then the second round starts, and all of this happens again. During the first round of combat, only characters that started in the active hand can attack. During the second combat phase, also characters that were summoned from the support hand can attack. I should probably show this, or maybe you can just say what stats the cards have, and then I'm gonna show how it works, because I would talk about this forever, and it's probably just easier to show it, and it will be obvious immediately. So cards have some amount of hit points. You can see that here, because we didn't do anything yet, we have 7 out of 7 hit points, and then we have some damage. Because we are in hunting challenge, our damage is not like affected by our weapons. It's made from our ability to hunt. That's why our hunter has so high attack, because a hunter is the highest ability to hunt. So these 3 people are warriors, and what's this? Our crafter just are basically useless for a hunt, so they will more or less be just a shield. What we could do is just not play anything, end the turn, let the computer play his cards, and then what we do, we really just use these guys as a shield. So use 1, 2, 3, and behind them we use our like cards from a passive hand, who won't be able to do damage in the first round of combat, but in the second round of combat they will still be able to do some damage, because all of them have some actual damage. You can see it, 5, 4, and 6. So we'll be able to kill at least this card. So here, just get them closer. And now we would end the turn. The reason why the hunter is 6+1 is not is because she doesn't only have health, but also she has some ability that gives her shielding, so that's added to her hit points, and the opponent has to get through the shield before he can get to the health. So now we've created the line. Now we just end the turn, and the combat will start. So first, this card will do its 5 damage, and now it's a turn of our people, but all our people in the first phase have 0 attack, so they attack but don't do any damage. And now in the second phase, all cards can attack. We're gonna lose our first shield. Now, these 2 people can't do anything, but now our people with damage can do something. And we managed to get rid of 1 hunting card, and our hunter attacked and did some damage as well. So we lost 1 card, but we managed to get rid of 1 opponent's card. Who loses all cards first lost the challenge. So this is 1 turn, and now another turn starts. The same thing. We just play all the cards. Then we get into combat, rinse and repeat, as long as there are any cards available, or until someone loses all cards. I think I'm just gonna start with the hunter. Oh, and I didn't realize that, or I forgot that this card has piercing attack. That's what you get when you are using spears. When you play card with a piercing attack, it immediately does half of its damage, and also is moved in front of the opponent's card. So that's why we have already taken damage, and why this card will do its damage before our hunter. And if we allow that to happen, we would lose the hunter, and she wouldn't be able to do anything. So I probably should do something about that. And for that we have our support cards. And one of our support cards has the ability to give us a first action. This first action moves our card to the first position in the whole line. If there were more cards in front, you would move it all the way to the first position. And that's basically what we need. We want the hunter to do at least 1 attack. So let's do just that. Now we will definitely get 6 damage in, and because the opponent doesn't have any cards available, we just play all that we have. And the only card that really makes sense is Toslava. So now what's gonna happen during the first turn, we'll do 6 damage, then the hunting card will do its damage, and it can do its damage either to the right or to the left. Every card can just attack to the right or to the left, and it's kind of like element of surprise. You can't affect this onto which side the card is gonna attack. I of course wanted to attack Toslava because she would survive it, but if it doesn't and kills our hunter, it's okay, because we'll still finish it off with this attack. Okay, and like this we have won the challenge. Now we managed to successfully, you can read it here, you track down the prey and lead it right to the traps. Some of the pack could have gotten away, but you got your win. So you managed to hunt them down, and as a reward we get 2 amber. Now there is one big difference between these challenges like hunting and between the actual fight. When we lose a card during, let's say, hunting, there is no danger of the character whose card we've lost that he would die. Compared to the normal combat, when there is not hunting but fight, when we lose the card there, the character that lost all hit points can die after that. He doesn't. He wouldn't die immediately when we lose the card, but he gets like gravely wounded, or how we call it, and then he has to recover it during a few turns. And every turn that he's recovering from that, there is a chance that he's gonna die. So most of the time, when there is an option to go for like not non-combat challenges, it's better to go that way because it's safer. Sometimes it's not possible to avoid it, but when there is an option, especially early, it's better to go for that. So here we have the loot, and we can keep going. We also got one experience point and one research point. Maybe that's something I should mention. Here we have the circle represents experience. Always when we fill this, all our characters get a level up, so one random stat is increased. uh, and then we just start it again. Just the amount of experience that we're gonna need for the next level is gonna be higher. It works the same way for research that is represented here. um, okay, so that was the first hunt, and now we could try to find our first combat. Let's try to go. This looks like ruins, and that should be combat. Let's try to get there. Do we have here we have grain. That's interesting. Grain is quite a useful resource for some buildings. I'm just not sure that we'll be able to get it in time before we start building the first building. I'm probably gonna try it. Okay, next. Come on. Okay, anything interesting here? Just more wood. Yep, these are ruins. They're a bit more dangerous than the hive. And here's a spider nest. Maybe you could start with a spider nest, and we won't get a level up from that. We'll be close, but we won't. I'd like to get a level up before the first like dangerous fight. Okay, well, what we can do right now is just end the turn. And let's attack these spiders. Here again, we can either hunt them or fight with them. Spiders, or at least when it's only one skull spiders, are very easy to fight. So I'm just gonna use the first option to show you guys how that works. We have only 4 spiders against us. That's not a problem. Usually I would just go with auto resolve for this one, but I want to show the combat, so let's do it manually. And you can see that now our stats are completely different. We have a lot more damage. We have more hit points. Most of our characters have shielding. They have even some different types of damage. For example, this means that we do poison damage. Here's poison damage as well. And also we have like different, because we are using different types of weapons, we also now have the piercing damage available. Here, this is from blunt weapons, so this can like trample and kill more than one enemy. So what we're gonna do, we can start, or actually, why are our stats different? For the normal fight, as this one, our stats are recognized. The survivability, this health, is based on our actual health plus the armor is added to this number. When we have shielding, it's shown down here. Our damage is based on our weapon. So during combat, our stats are recognized by basically our gear and some basic combat abilities. During different challenges, hunting, social challenges, physical challenges, and there is a ton of different challenges. For these challenges, all these stats are, or all these numbers are based on different stats. When we are hunting, for example, these stats are not based on damage and armor, but are based, for example, on our trapping skill, on our, what else is there, animal kinship, and stuff like that. That's for every type of challenge, these numbers will be different, and we always want to choose the option where our numbers are like the highest, or are better compared to what the opponent is gonna have. And also for normal combat, there is always the risk that we can lose something or someone. But here it should be very easy. I'm gonna start with the hunter to show the piercing damage. So now when we play this card, it's gonna be positioned before the spider, and it will do half of its damage immediately because he has only 4 hit points. He will die just because we play the card. We won't even get to combat. So one spider down, and we can play one more card. So let's. They'll probably die before we can get to the blunt damage, so we won't be able to show that. I'll just play this guy, our main damage dealer. Now we can play another card, and now we just wait for the computer to play his cards, and we don't need anything else because when we get to the combat, first our hunter kills this spider, then the warrior kills this spider, and our crafter finishes off the last one. So we won't even need 2 combat phases. What we could show maybe is some of the supporting abilities that we have available. I didn't talk too much about that. I have only shown that we can like move people to the front of the line, and that we can also use these guys in the second combat phase. But they have like more abilities. They can help us in more ways. I can't show counter tactics, but what I can show is shielding. When we have a character that has a shield or a weapon that allows the shielding, we can help one of the characters or the last character that is in line with some extra defense. We can shield him. So when we use shield, her defense increases. Then we can also use confuse. That's probably the last thing that we can show from what we have available now. And confuse means that we will disable the last active character in opponent's side for the first combat phase. So you can see these question marks. Those mean that these spiders won't be able to do anything in the first combat phase. This spider, if he didn't die, he would be able to attack in the first combat phase. By confusing him, you will also get these question marks. So for the first combat phase, he can't do anything now. In these simple fights, this is not a big deal, but later all of these like support characters can be crucial for a success in fight, and there are definitely more ways how they can support us. But here, just finish this fight quickly. Get one spider silk, some experience, and because we are not done with this turn yet, we still have some movement. We can probably do one more fight before we end this part and try to check these ruins. Now when we get to ruins, we have to use this option to search the location, because we don't know if there will be a fight yet. We'll see that now.
You stumble across some ruins of an old city, engulfed in mist and mystery.
We can still retreat, but we want to search yet.
You search the abandoned abodes and open some old dusty cellar. As the heavy doors crack, you are swarmed by some crazed bats.
Of course there is a fight, but it seems that this one shouldn't be that hard. So let's do it. 3 rats and 4 bats. Yeah, it could have been significantly harder. The biggest problem here is that there is more of them than the amount of people that we have. So what can we do about this? You do 3 points of damage. So we have first action available if we wanted to like move someone to the front, but we can easily tank the damage, I would say. I just need someone with decent shield. So let's play this card. The damage to the shield is basically irrelevant. The only thing that matters after the fight is how much damage we take to hit points. That's what's dangerous. And the next thing, in this fight we could show the blunt damage. I'm just not sure that we have enough to actually get anything through. We could try that. I see how to show that. Okay. Now, what I could do, usually it's a good idea to boost the people who have the blunt damage, so they kill 2 enemies every time. And we can do that with support cards that have support ally. Support ally ability increases the attack of the last hour card in the line by the amount that's behind it. And for example, this stat is based on our range damage. That's why only our hunter has it, because that's the only character that we have who has a ranged weapon. So that's what I'm gonna do. So now damage is 13, and 13 is enough to kill both these cards. We still can play one more card, so let's play Bronislava. And what else? We can just shield her probably, so she can tank all of the hits that she'll have to take. And it's probably the best thing we can do. Just make it fast, boost the shield as much as possible, wait until the computer plays his last card, and now we start. Okay, first attack, we couldn't do much about that. And now the blunt damage, you can see that this time she attacked to the left and to the right. She didn't kill this rat, but did quite a lot of damage. Second round. Okay, finally managed to finish the round off. Now we will kill, you can see, 2 cards and finish the fight.
You search the buildings and discover a
And
supply
this
store
time
still
from
intact.
ruins the loot is much better. We get some bird meat, some normal meat, sandstone, and steel. So that's not bad. So let's take all of it. We get 2 experience, 1 research point, and this should give us enough for a level up. But to get a level up, we have to end the turn. So let's do that. Get the level up so you guys see how that works. And after that, we probably get back and check what's to the north, because it seems there are more interesting things. Ruins, probably more ruins here. This looks like a spider den. And because it's daytime, it's like noon, we should start thinking about getting closer to the village, so we are around the village when the night comes. And turn. And another small hive spawned. Maybe we can just clear it on our way back. And here are the level ups. It's for our expedition and for our village, so we can check that. We got stealth from our hunter, so that's good for like sneak challenges and hunting challenges. Then we have strength for these 2, so that means they can carry heavier gear. Here we have extra poison damage. I'll talk about poison damage later when it becomes relevant. Or maybe I can probably say it now. When we attack with the poison damage, when we hit a character that wasn't damaged yet, it just added to our normal damage. But when we attack something what's already taken damage and we hit it with a character who has poison damage, the poison damage part of the damage that we are dealing is dealt twice. So for example, when we do 6 damage plus 2 poison damage and we hit a damaged character, we do 6 damage plus twice 2. So it just adds extra damage to damaged characters. We get extra gathering, that's always useful early, and will, you can read that, how that exactly works. Will is primary defense skill for many challenges, including social and hacks. That's what I was talking about when I said that different challenges require different abilities. Okay, so that's these guys, and in the village we got health. It's always useful. Then we have gathering. I just hope it's for, yeah, it is for a gatherer. Good, so it's increased to 6, almost there. We need 7. With 7 we'll be able to get either wood or vegetables every turn. And then we have speech. Again, that's similar to will. Speech shows how eloquent your people are. It's used in social challenges, and you can can help you get out of many tight spots using diplomacy. Okay, so this will be all for this part. Was still more explaining than actually playing, but I think now I've covered all the basics. Um, I hope that it was possible to understand when I was explaining the combat. It's not that easy to explain, but when we are playing, I think it's quite obvious how it works. So I hope you guys understand it. And from the next part, I won't be explaining anything anymore. We'll just play as much as possible, and finally really focus on the game. We have a lot to do. We are about to finish the hammer that we are working on since the first part. It should be done anytime now. It'll allow us to start cooking, to do the first quest that we have available, and maybe start working on some buildings so we can get to that as well, and maybe try to get some more people. But yeah, that's gonna be in the next part, so I hope you like this one. Join me for the next one again, and until then, have a good time. Bye bye.